The ambition to rise up and climb the ladder, the drive to succeed, needing to be recognized, the pressure to start something new. But is the timing right? These are all pressures, qualities, and questions that this cycle of the Human Design Weather for January 5th to 10th, 2026 bring. Hello, and welcome to the Human Design Weather or Not podcast with me, Margot Fraser. Before we get into the weather for this cycle, I want to do a little bit of a retrospective of the last cycle, given the world events going on here. So we certainly saw the tension of gates 38 and 39 and their traits of the fighter and provocation playing out. It was a cycle I was really watching because not only did we have the sun sitting in gate 38, that gate of the fighter, but midway through, we also had Venus and Mars move into that trait, giving an exclamation point to that energy. And we did see the impact of this. So I'm going to use the US going into Venezuela in the wee hours of January 3rd as an example, because I was able to find the timing on that. This is not a political or philosophical discussion. Whatever you think about it, for this purposes in the weather, it's about looking at the power of the transit field. So the sun, again, was sitting in gate 38, the fighter, in line 4 called investigation. It has a developmental theme, that line, that says analysis which strengthens opposition. Now, it was in its detriment. And the detriment says the aggressiveness in opposition that prejudices investigation and limits trustworthiness, the power of adrenaline to provoke aggressiveness. Venus was in exaltation in line 3, the line of trial and error and bonds made and broken, called alliance, the making or breaking of alliances. And hasty and immature Mars was in line 5, called alienation, where there can be this alienation of those who could be allies. Now, the gate 38 energy can only speculate on what to fight for. It doesn't really know for sure. Without the 28, it's electromagnetic, that trait of the game player that knows in the now what to fight for. But the not self mind likes to think it knows. And we see this in the lack of clarity about what this was all about. Was it about drugs? Was it about regime change? Was it about power and taking over? Was it about oil? The indictment against Maduro also listed possession of machine guns and destructive devices. And we saw this in headlines, right? There were many headlines that came out that said something like, what the US strikes on Venezuela were really about. We also had gate 40, the trait of deliverance in the ego center, sitting in line 6, called decapitation, which is about removing from power those seen as interfering. Gate 36, the trait of crisis, was sitting in line 4, called espionage. So just something to contemplate, to just see the power of the transit field and what's playing out around you. Okay, so if you like hearing that retrospective or not, you can let me know in the comments. Now, last cycle, I let you know that there are 4 stages of reflection through the 4 stages leading up to the Human Design New Year on January 21st. I put together a set of PDFs with contemplation questions to support you in using the cycles for that purpose. If you're interested in this, you can go to my website, margotgfraser.com/human-design to sign up to receive those PDFs. All right, this cycle, we again have 2 gates sitting in the root center being activated by the sun and earth. The root center is a motor and a pressure center bringing its adrenalized drive. So this is another cycle that comes with pressure, energy that wants to rise up and eventually get to the throat for manifestation. This cycle begins January 5th at 4:20 a.m., going until the 10th at 4:50 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. UTC, that's coming in January 5th at 11:20 a.m., going until the 10th at 11:50 p.m. Remember to convert that to your own time zone so you know when it starts and ends for you. We always start with the Sun Earth activations because that's 70% of the conditioning field. We have the Sun moving into gate 54, the trait of ambition. This is part of the tribal circuitry. And you can think of tribe as your family, your communities, any business groups that you're part of. That would all fall under tribe. Its keynote says interaction in its mundane social context, but also one's mystical and cosmic relationships. So this is rooted in relationships. How do you climb the ladder if you don't have relationships? We need the relationships as well to gain the needed resources on the material plane. That's what this part of the tribal circuitry is all about. This is the entrepreneurial side of the tribal circuitry. So ultimately, it wants to succeed in gaining those necessary resources, both materially and spiritually. This root pressure brings the drive to climb the ladder through supporting another's success and in turn being supported to rise up that ladder as a result of that. Mutually beneficial relationships and support are really the foundation of the tribal circuitry, and ambition has the potential to enhance transformations that improve the chance of success of the business, the project, the community objectives, whatever it may be. You may have noticed that the keynote also speaks to one's mystical and cosmic relationships. The tribal circuitry brings the questions of what is our larger relationship to the totality. Ultimately, bringing material resources for the tribe isn't enough. We also look for our spirits to be nurtured and fed. The most mystical line in all of the design bodygraph is found in line 4 of this trait, which is called Enlightenment and Endarkenment. As you master the instincts to operate on the material plane, there's the potential for both material and spiritual transformation. The drive to transform is about taking the raw resource or talent that this trait has and bring out its potential. So you may feel more pressure this cycle to fulfill your own potential. What do you want to achieve? This trait not only brings out the ambition to rise up in the material and spiritual ladders, it also brings the pressure to find your allies, the people that can help you rise up through supporting them and them supporting you. However, if the ego gets involved and you overtly express that you're the one who's really responsible for the success, you'd be nothing without me, or if you don't wait for the correct ally or allies, it's likely not going to go well, and there'll be a tendency to end up feeling bitter and betrayed. This is also a trait that wants to be recognized. Think about wanting to rise up the corporate ladder, for example. It's hard to rise up if no one's noticing you. So there could be this tendency towards calling more attention to yourself this cycle or seeing others do that. This is a cycle where you might find those allies that support your transformation. But watch that you don't invest in something out of this drive to progress that's not correct for you. Follow your strategy and authority. Now, I need to add here that this trait is very, very amplified this cycle, because just before the cycle started, Mars moved into gate 54. And about 5 hours after it starts, Venus is going to move into gate 54. So we're just in this cosmic pattern where Venus and Mars are in a conjunction. They're hitting the same gates and aligned with the sun. So we saw that with the gate 38 in the last cycle. Now we're going to see it with the gate 54. Now, Venus and Mars are going to pull lines 1, lines 2, and lines 3 into detriment in the first half of this cycle. So we're going to have themes with this of people demanding recognition for their talents and ambition. We're going to have a lack of discretion, and disloyalty can come out of that. We're going to have this going around the formal channels that have been established if there's seen to be an obstacle to one's ambitions. Then when we move into line 4, late on January 7th, Mountain Standard Time, we get to that most mystical Enlightenment, Endarkenment, which says the fuel for transformation at its purest level, whatever that is. And for Mars, it's going to be in this line for almost the full time that the sun is. And Venus will be there for about the first 11 hours. So we'll see what happens with that. Line 5, when it gets to that, only has an exaltation. There is no detriment in line 5. The upper trigram, lines 4, 5, and 6, are externalizing. So it's using that ambition in, ideally, service of others and finding success and transformation through that. Gate 54 is being grounded in the Earth's position. Gate 53, the trait of beginnings, also called development. This is part of the abstract experiential circuitry about going through cycles, beginnings, middles, and ends, and then reflecting on those to gain the lessons and the wisdom. Its keynote says development as a structured progression that is both steadfast and enduring. This is the energy to start a new experiential cycle through which you'll learn something new and you can use in the future as you move through a structured progression, beginnings, middles, ends, regardless of the changes that it brings. This trait brings the fuel of steadfastness through the process, the ability to stay in the experience through its highs and lows. This will bring a pressure for you to start something new that builds on a foundation of what you've learned from your past experiences. But if you're not patient and ensure that what you start is really something you can complete by following your strategy and authority, it can end up being very frustrating. If you have everything ready to go to start something new and just need a boost of energy and drive, this could be a really helpful cycle. And then as you move through the experiential cycle, you'll eventually gain the growth and maturation that the experiential nature is all about. However, if you jump into starting something new without completing the cycle you're in, it'll result in wasting energy and having to repeat the same cycle over and over again because there was never completion to bring it to maturation. The maturation includes reflecting and gaining the wisdom and lessons after the cycle comes to completion, and then applying that to your next cycle of evolution so that you don't get stuck repeating the same kind of experience over and over again. When we look at the Sun Earth positions together, it can bring the pressure for you to start something new aligned with your ambitions, which could be at the right or the wrong time, depending on whether you're following your strategy and authority or not. Perhaps it will be starting a new relationship that helps both of you to be successful. We could also see relationships where one side is holding the ambition of the other back to try and maintain power over them. All right, let's look at our channels now. A reminder that when the transit field creates a channel, everyone that doesn't already have it in their chart is receiving activation of the related traits and qualities. So it has a big impact that way. We have our long-term channel that came in December 22nd and will be with us until May 13th, with the north and the south nodes of the moon creating the channel of community, a design of a part seeking a whole. The north node is sitting in gate 37, the trait of friendship and family, and the south node is in gate 40, the trait of deliverance and aloneness in the ego center. I went into a lot of detail about this channel when it came in on December 22nd, so you can always go back to that weather report if you want to get all the details that I gave then, but I'll give a little bit of the summary here. So this is tribal with the theme of mutual support. So generally, we're going to feel the need for support and to be supported. We're going to see those who are supported and those who are not. As the channel of the marriage contract and bargains in general, there is going to be this emphasis on fairness in relationships. Expect to experience and see the themes of loyalty and betrayal, jealousy and friendship, possessiveness and a generous nature. There could be negotiation of contracts and also breakdown of agreements that are seen to be unfair. It can bring feeling taken advantage of or feeling supported. There's going to be more pressure to come together in family and community. And this is emotional, this channel. So there could be explosive emotional outbursts if there are those that are feeling that they're the ones doing all the work without being appreciated, or the work isn't fairly portioned out, or that the others aren't doing enough to provide to the family or community. You can think of gate 37 as the glue of the community through friendship, and it brings the needs to the community. And then gate 40 delivers its willpower to the community to deliver what's needed. This is the breadwinner gate. However, if it's not appreciated, or if it just has used up its willpower for now, willpower is not infinite. You can only push for so long, and then you need to rest. So if it's out of juice, if it's not being appreciated, this is a trait that will withdraw into aloneness to recuperate. We have generally heightened willpower and emotionality while this channel is present. So that brings a general pushiness and the highs and lows of emotions. This is a design of a part seeking a whole. So you may feel that pressure to find your place in family or community, and spiritually in the totality. We may see people that are joining communities that are not aligned for them because they just want to feel like there's somewhere they belong. There is, though, this opportunity to understand in a greater way that living your unique design gives you your place in the totality. All right, we just have one other channel being created by a transit of the moon. The moon only activates a gate or a trait for about 10 or 11 hours, give or take, so it's just a little taster. This one comes in on January 10th at 9:29 a.m., going until 8:41 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. UTC coming in January 10th at 4:29 p.m., going until the 11th at 3:41 a.m. We have the moon moving into gate 32, the trait of duration and continuity in the splenic center, connecting with its electromagnetic, our sun's position, gate 54, the trait of ambition in the root center. Together, they create the tribal channel of transformation, a design of being driven. We're just getting a little taste of it here with the moon moving in, but I was looking back and we didn't have this channel created at all anytime by the transit field in 2025. Gate 32, the trait of duration and continuity, has an instinct for what talent, what ambition to invest in. It sees the raw potential in that gate 54, that trait of ambition. And gate 54 brings its raw talent, but doesn't necessarily know how to nurture and develop its own potential. That's what the gate 32 can do. It can bring out that potential. Gate 32 is in the splenic center. So it's the gate that brings the awareness. Together, in the channel of transformation, this is the place where raw talent, raw resources can be transformed into something that can support the community and bringing resources to the tribe. It's supporting that material success and spiritual ambition as well. If you have this channel in your design, you have the potential to climb the ladder and move into a leadership position eventually. And there's usually this willingness to work when this channel is present, that, doing that work that it takes to transform energy into material success. That brings us to our long-term transits. The long-term transits are created by the outer planets and nodes of the moon. They're with us for longer periods of time, years in some cases. So your not self mind could start to think they're part of you, even when it's not something you have in your own design. And then when the transit moves on, that can be quite confusing to the not self mind. Let's start with the nodes of the moon. As we discussed, they are the ones creating that long-term channel of community. We have this background of both coming together in family and community and seeing the breakdown of those as well. They moved into line 5 on January 4th, so just a little before this cycle started. For gate 37, the trait of friendship and family, line 5 is called love. It has a developmental theme, so it's something that we learn over time, that says natural and unaffected devotion to the family. This is a trait that in its exaltation can foster natural harmony and the sharing possible through friendship. In its detriment, it says emotional dependency that often turns love into hatred. So we have the love-hate theme here. Gate 40, the trait of deliverance and aloneness in the ego center in line 5 is called rigidity. Here it gets projected onto the ego that it's rigid, that it's going to do things when it wants to do things, and otherwise it will do nothing. It will rest, which is pretty perfect for an ego gate to push when it has the juice and then rest. It also has a developmental theme that says the recognition that to achieve liberation, all negative forces must be rejected. When it comes to the ego, liberation is being able to rest. And the negative forces are those calling on it when it doesn't want to work. So the exaltation here says the revolutionary that demands absolute victory. Now, victory here is I do my thing when I want, and when I rest, leave me alone. It also says the power of the ego is maintained in the rejection of negative relationships. The power of the ego here is the ability to do work it loves and deliver and provide for the needs of the family and community. And the ego always needs to be massaged and appreciated to be able to deliver. This can be its downfall and the detriment where those people that are calling on that ego to provide when it doesn't have the juice aren't rejected. Right? If I just push through and do this thing they're asking me, even though I don't really want to, then they'll finally leave me alone so I can go rest. That diminishes the ego's ability to provide what it's really capable of. This is a trait I know well. I have this exalted in line 5, but that doesn't mean I don't fall into the detriment sometimes. All right, moving to the outer planets. Jupiter has been in gate 62, the logical trait of details, for quite a while now, but just a few hours after the start of this cycle, it will retrograde back to gate 53, the collective abstract trait of beginnings. This is the same gate as the Earth's position. It will be in line 6 called phasing. In its exaltation, it says the energy to attract support for beginnings based on the success of the past. The detriment says a tendency in this position to hide success in the perverse fear that the success will either create excessive demands or supporters of the original process will end their support upon completion. The pressure to hide beginnings in fear of losing past support. So this ability to use past lessons and wisdom gained to gain support to start something new can bring out that expansive quality of Jupiter. Saturn remains in gate 36, the abstract experiential trait of crisis in the emotional center. This is about entering into the new experience, actually doing it. Now, it moved into line 5, called the underground, on January 4th. We only have the detriment of this line present in the world. And it says a nervousness that can lead to self-betrayal. So this is where you can get so nervous about going into an experience or so excited that you let it go. You don't do it. That's what's meant by self-betrayal. You abandon going into the experience. Uranus is in gate 8, the individual trait of contribution. It's in line 4 called respect, which has a developmental theme saying the gift of naturally recognizing the contribution of others, and particularly the acknowledgement of those who lead by example. So this is where leadership qualities can be expressed and contributed by being one's unique self. This is part of that individual circuitry, even if you're not the official leader. Neptune sitting in gate 25 in the G center, the center associated with love, identity, and direction in life. This is the trait of the spirit of the self, of innocence and universal love. It's still in line 2, called the existentialist, which is all about be here now. Pluto sitting in gate 41, the trait of contraction and decrease in the root center. It's part of the abstract experiential circuitry, and it's going to start the cycle in line 1, called reasonableness. This is where all the fantasies about what experience to enter into need to be contracted down to the one that's actually reasonable. However, clarity on this can't come until gate 30. It's electromagnetic. The trait of recognition of feelings is present. So it takes patience and being cool-headed and reasonable. In the detriment, there can be this hot-headedness and not waiting out the process for clarity. On January 7th at 8:18 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, it's going to move into line 2, called caution. It has a developmental theme that says humanism tempered by pragmatism. So this can bring that fantasizing, dreaming about helping others, but it has to be practical and there has to be something that you can take action on eventually. Or in the detriment, there can be dreaming about helping others, but not taking any action. Still, though, expecting that just having the dream itself should be enough to get recognition from others. Overall, we really shift this cycle from the strong individuality that we had last cycle to very, very strong tribal and collective abstract energies. This is going to generally bring a more social energy, especially in the second half of the cycle. We have our tribal environment of community with that desire for mutual support and fair bargains. Through this, we can see the love and the nurturing, or the hate and the emotional dependency playing out, and the only providing when one wants to, or under delivering because the ego is being stroked when rest is being called for. Overall, that channel theme of a part seeking a whole, people trying to find where they fit in, is something that we'll also see playing out. With the Sun, Mars, Venus, all in gate 54, that fostering of relationships that are mutually beneficial, again, gets emphasized here. Or there could be the deception and betrayal from trying to get ahead. These are going to be major themes this cycle. In the abstract experiential circuitry, we have both the Earth and Jupiter bringing the pressure to start something new. And that's added on to by gate 41, its pressure to fantasize and dream of starting a new feeling, experience, and gate 36, pressure to enter into that new experience and to progress. So it's an interesting cycle for me personally. I have the 53, 54 in my nodes in an undefined root center. So I won't feel this until I'm around a defined root, like my dad, who I'm visiting now. So I'm going to have fun walking in and out of his aura and see what I feel. Remember, for any of these traits, if you don't have them in your own design, it's just pressure from the transit field. You can observe it playing out around you, you can learn from it, but whether there's anything for you to actually do with it is according to your own strategy and authority. So don't let the transit field run you. This brings us to the end of the cosmic weather for this cycle. If you want to run your own chart, you can go to jovianarchive.com. If you're new to human design and you just want to understand the basics of the body graph at a high level, what's the black and the red about, the different geometric shapes, a bit of background information on the system itself, you're welcome to grab my free Human Design Basics mini course. It's at margotgfraser.com/human-design. All right, we continue with everyone having the emotional and the willpower centers defined. So expect the pressure to find your place in community and the totality. Keep in mind that you're inherently part of the totality. And as you live your design, you may really sense that more and more. It's a good time to contemplate your relationships and which are mutually beneficial and what you might want to start that builds on prior experiences. If the timing's correct, you'll have the support of the weather to move you towards transforming your energy into material success and moving into a new experience. All right. Well, have a great cycle, and may you know, love, and live the magic of your true nature. Until next time, bye for now.